All right. Greetings, Rec Techies. Hope you are well today. Welcome to another edition of Rec Tech Live here on a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of March. And today is the Assessment Technology Expo. So, four vendors, back to back demos on different technologies to help you assess and evaluate candidates in your funnels. So, I'm Chris Russell from Rec Tech Media. For those of you who haven't attended before, we do these shows probably 2 to 3, 4 times a month now. Different expos, different topics, and all meant to educate the modern recruiter out there. So, RegTech Media is what we do. We try to educate the market on the technologies out there because there's so many now. And stay tuned to this channel, and we'll keep you informed as to the latest and greatest out there. Let's see here, a couple show notes. So this will be recorded and replayed later. So use the same link, come back to it. You can replay it anytime you want. We'll also throw it up on our YouTube channel as well. Sometime after the show, probably tomorrow. And we'll also cut up the individual demos for you as well for each of those vendors. The next two shows are coming up in April, so I want to mention those first. We've got April 21st. We're going to do social media hashtagging for recruiters with special guest Matt Lazar from Haley Marketing. That's all about basically how to hashtag your jobs, essentially on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We'll kind of go into the on that and give you some really good tactics for how to leverage hashtags. And that will help you essentially make your jobs more discoverable in those ecosystems. And that's an important thing if you want sort of free traffic to your listings is proper hashtagging. And so we're going to cover that topic on April 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can go to regtechlive.com or on Crowdcast to register. The following week, April 28th, we're going to do a demo day with Chatter, Chattr. They're a high-volume hourly hiring platform based out of Florida. They work with customers like Subway, Dunkin' Donuts, and help them get hourly workers into the funnel with their platform. So that'll be kind of a single demo day for them. And that'll be on April 28th at regtechlive.com. All right, here. So let's do some shout outs to see who's live. And we've got a good number of people here. Oris, Michael Younger's here. Okay, Taryn, Brian Douglas. Hey. Feel free to shout out in the chat in the room there. Anya Feingold, Lisa Schuster, Lynn from Traitify is here. John, Dan Corporates, Joe Prats. Hey, Lisa Moody from LA. Charlie Atkinson here is from PeopleFactors. He'll be second. Dan and Julie Marsick. All right. Good afternoon, Michael. All right. Excellent. So the order of today. Hello from London, of course. The order for today will be Traitify's up first, and that's going to be Joshua Spears demoing. Then PeopleFactors, and that'll be Charlie Atkinson. ResumeSieve, Michael Younger, we'll do that one. And finally, iMocha will be dialing in from India. And I think Roshan is going to be doing their demo overall. So, all right, I think that covers my notes for today. So let's get Joshua on the call and get things rolling with the Assessment Technology Expo. So, all right, Josh, going to invite you on screen here, and we'll get rolling. Let's get him invited. If you have any questions on the vendors, throw them in the chat there. I'll ask on your behalf, and we'll get your questions answered as well. Wait till the end when each vendor is done demoing, and we'll go from there. So, hey, Josh, how's it going?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
All right, you're the co-founder and chief product officer. Excellent.
I am the co-founder and chief product officer. So I wanted to just kind of kick off our demo today, or rather do some kind of introduction of myself before we get into the demo. So I started the company with my co-founder, Dan, back in 2011. This is our 10th year. I've been at it for quite some time. And both Dan and I are both super passionate about creating magical experiences for people, particularly our users who use Traitify, whether it be candidates, employees, or managers. And that really is kind of core to our DNA as a company. A few fun things to kind of mention about my background. So the company was more or less inspired by a failed blind date that I went on back in 2011. And the company originally was really focused more on how do we use personality data to recommend things to do for people for a dating context? And that over the last decade has transformed into kind of what we're doing today, which we'll obviously talk more about in a little bit. Also, in those early days, I lived in a hotel with our chief creative officer and our then CTO for about 6 months, which sounds fun, and it was fun at times, but definitely by the end of that 6-month period, I was ready to kind of find a more permanent residence. And then on a daily basis, in terms of my role as chief product officer for Traitify, really what I'm responsible for is bringing together all of our teams on the product side of the house, whether that be our psychology team, our design team, our development team, our DevOps team, and really make sure that we're building products that have a strong foundation in psychology and in science, but also prioritize that great user experience for those candidates, employees, and managers.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing the tool. I've met Elliot Larson, one of your sales reps, many of the shows in the past. That's how I got introduced to Traitify. And I think I have a Traitify t-shirt somewhere in my drawer.
That's awesome. That's great. We'll have to send you some of our latest and greatest swag too.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, feel free to get rolling here.
Sure. So again, before we jump into the demo, just want to spend a minute or so talking about who we are as Traitify. So we look at ourselves as a human insights platform that's powered by 2 primary assessments. Our personality assessment that is informed by the 5-factor model of personality, and our cognitive assessment, which we're actually launching in a couple weeks, which uses the general mental ability Cattell-Horn-Carroll model of intelligence. And those two assessments primarily power 3 product lines. Attract, which can be used top of funnel prior to a candidate applying to help them discover opportunities within an organization. Select, which is applying the assessment in the apply flow for candidates to take the assessment and their scores to be viewed by hiring managers in order to prioritize and select the best fit candidate. And then Engage, which is our post-hire solution. So this is primarily using that personality and cognitive data to create personalized content for employees and managers to help with engagement and development of employees. Everything we do is designed with kind of that experience and the end user in mind. So we're really prioritizing creating experiences that are delightful, easy to use, intuitive, and impactful without requiring a huge time investment. We do consider ourselves the fastest in the industry in terms of not only our assessment length. Our personality assessment takes about 90 seconds. Our cognitive typically takes about 5 minutes. And then results are instantaneously available for hiring managers and managers to view. Everything we build is accessible across any device. So we have most of our usage today coming from mobile devices, but everything is designed to work across any device, regardless of screen size. And then again, as I mentioned at the front in my intro, we are prioritizing science and strong psychology in everything we build. So while our interfaces are very innovative and modern, we are making sure that everything is very, very predictive and tested so that it's reliable and valid. And we have this big green graphic here, but we also are very proud of our completion rate, and we think this is a huge differentiator for us in the market. We'll be up at 96% plus completion rate, which is not very surprising considering our assessments take 90 seconds and 5 minutes for the cognitive to complete. So I'm going to run through our Select product and primarily our Big 5 assessment. And if you want to follow along, for anyone watching, you can go to assessmentexpo.traitify.com and take the assessment along with me. I'm going to go and pull up my web browser. So we can be delivered through a variety of ways. Primarily, most of our customers are using us via an applicant tracking system integration, and we do integrate into most of the major applicant tracking systems. So what you're going to see today is very representative of the experience that a candidate would see as they're going through one of our assessments. So the first thing a candidate would see is a very brief set of instructions, just asking them to go with their gut and answer me or not me to these images. So you'll see here, this is our assessment format. It's primarily visual. We do have a caption to help kind of hone the intent of the image. And this is our proprietary method. So we have developed this in-house with our team of psychologists. We go through a very, very rigorous testing process to ensure that we have convergent validity with long-standing Big 5 models or assessments. We then do retest reliability to make sure that the results are consistent. And then of course, we're looking at criterion validity with all of our customers to make sure that we are in fact predicting outcomes using our assessment. So again, this assessment is based on the 5-factor model, measuring openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and emotional stability. This model is by far considered the most predictive model by all psychologists. Has been around for over 70 years at this point, many years of research backing this. And what we've done is taken kind of a more modern, novel approach by taking these psychological concepts and developing a way in which we're able to measure these based on the response to these image caption pairs. And again, it takes only 90 seconds for a candidate to complete the assessment. Once the candidate has completed the assessment, we will send scores back into the applicant tracking system. But what I want to show you here is actually our candidate report. So this is something that our team developed last year as a response to the increased interest we were seeing in providing a give back to candidates. So our team has, from the ground up, designed an output that organizations can share with the candidate to create this reciprocity. So the report begins with an overview of the candidate's personality type. There are 32 possible types that the candidate can be bucketed into. We also have a video, very quick 1-minute video for each of the types. So a candidate can watch that and learn about their strengths, areas where they might have gaps or weaknesses and how to improve upon those, and also environments that are ideal for them. We also reiterate that information down here in this section where we're overviewing tools to use, room for growth and change, and settings that work for you. And finally, we're getting into a breakdown of the personality dimension. So as I mentioned, this framework is measuring 5 dimensions of personality. We would show the candidate where they rank from high, medium, or low on each of those. And then based on those, we're showing what the benefits are for being in that particular level on that dimension. Something to note here is all of this is configurable. Everything we build has maximum configurability in mind. So organizations can kind of pick or choose what they want to show in this report based on what they're comfortable sharing with the candidate. And then in terms of what we show to a hiring manager, so again, we are passing scores back into the applicant tracking system. Those scores are based on the ideal candidate profile that we set up for the organization. So based on what roles the assessment is to be used for, we do a job analysis. So looking at the description of the role, administering the assessment to incumbents in the role, doing manager interviews, and then also relying on the meta analytic research for the Big Five in terms of what personality traits and dimensions are predictive of success in that role. We now have a library of about 300 or so ideal candidate profiles, and we also use those to help build these profiles for organizations. So in addition to that score that we send over into the ATS, we would also send a URL. And once the hiring manager clicks on that URL, they would be able to see a full report and breakdown for the candidate. So again, you're seeing up here at the top, a numerical score and a text description based on how they scored relative to the ideal candidate profile. And then below that, we get into a fit breakdown. So as you can see here, we have the 5 dimensions of personality, and then there are 10 possible score levels that the candidate can achieve in each of these. So the hiring manager is very quickly able to see, did the candidate fall into the acceptable range of scoring for this dimension? Were they in the preferred, or were they in the potential risk? And also kind of very quickly and visually see where that dimension corresponds to in terms of work, functional work areas. So for instance here, openness corresponds to solving problems. We then present customized interview questions. So based on the candidate scores, we prioritize any areas, any of the functional work areas that are presenting as in the potential risk area, and provide the hiring manager with 3 possible questions to ask that candidate, along with what they are trying to find out from the question and what to kind of expect in the responses. So again, 3 questions for each of the 5 areas, and those areas are sorted based on how the candidate scored across the 5 dimensions. So jumping back to the deck, and kind of as a summary here, so in general, how we see ourselves stacking up against other assessments in the space. Many other more traditional assessments take upwards of 25 minutes to complete, which can be a non-starter, particularly in a high volume hourly apply flow where candidates don't have much time. We only take 2 minutes to complete the assessment. Most assessments traditionally are heavily text-based. We have really tried to limit the amount of text and only have those captions that accompany our visuals. We work across all devices that I mentioned, so we've made sure as we're building a lot of products that they're responsive and they look great across any device. Validation is also an interesting differentiator here. So many of our competitors in the space kind of set up an initial profile for a role and take a set it and forget it approach. We are actually looking at your data, your organizational data, your hiring, your termination data, your performance data on a quarterly basis. And we are tweaking those ideal candidate profiles as needed. So it's an ever evolving dynamic process to make sure that the profile is as sharp as it can be based on the current data. As I mentioned, we have a 96% completion rate, which has really allowed us to be utilized by many organizations who previously had seen fairly high drop-off and had turned away from assessments. Now they're able to leverage this power of the assessment through our very quick formats. Time to hire is another metric that we're often looking at, and whereas some of the more traditional assessments can in fact increase time to hire, we've seen across all of our customers that we're reducing it on average by 5 days, which is very, very impactful to an organization. And then finally, we've created these assessments both from the science perspective and the user experience perspective so that they can be utilized by anyone, regardless of what role they're applying for. So gone are the days where assessments can only be used for kind of management and executive hires. Now it can be opened up to any type of role, regardless of the complexity.
Okay.
And then finally, impact, of course, is kind of the bottom line here. And this is where we get into that criterion validation. Are we actually predicting, is using our assessment predicting positive outcomes for organizations we work with? So it is, in fact, really delivering on a multitude of metrics here. So on the business side, we've seen customers who are using Traitify have up to a 35% increase in work performance for employees who were selected using our assessments, and even a 6% increase in revenue for locations that are using Traitify to select candidates. And then in terms of the HR function, again, we're seeing a strong reduction in time to hire, up to 50%. Up to a 38% decrease in overall turnover, which of course equates to in some cases, millions of dollars of savings per year. And within that 38%, up to 54% in involuntary turnover, which is pretty staggering. And then these at the bottom are just kind of a collection of some of the customers we work with. We primarily are focused on kind of the high volume hourly space, considering our assessment is a really good fit for a very quick apply flow, but can serve any customer regardless of their type.
Okay, time's up, Josh.
Great.
Perfect. So I got a couple questions for you. So with your different clients, are they using it in different sort of pieces of the funnel? Is it pretty much just a pre-screening tool? Are they using it to shortlist candidates? Tell me more about how that fits in there.
Yeah, so our select tool that I just ran through is primarily being used in the apply flow as a pre-hire assessment, but we do have those other two products, Attract, which is top of funnel, often embedded directly on a career site to help candidates discover opportunities that fit them and then apply for those, and then Engage, which is kind of using that data to deliver personalized content to employees and managers to help retention once the hire has been made.
For your high volume clients, are they using that the assessment to? Is that kind of the primary way they will weed out a candidate?
Yeah, it's primarily being used to quickly kind of prioritize candidates, particularly with these high volume hourly employers. As I'm sure you know, they're seeing kind of staggering volume of candidates and need a way to quickly kind of sort and prioritize those that they're going to advance to the next step. So it is, I would say, a first line of defense to get down to that interview stage where ultimately a manager can have a face-to-face with a candidate.
And last question, just tell us about your pricing briefly, if you could.
Yeah, so it really depends on number of hires. That's currently how we're pricing, is looking at kind of total anticipated annual hires. We don't want to charge by assessment because we never want to disincentivize an organization from using our assessments. So that's kind of how we're reaching our pricing.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time today, Josh. Great finally being able to see Traitify in action.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
You got you and the team there.
Great, thank you.
All right, take care. All right, Charlie Atkinson from PeopleFactors is up next. We'll get him on the line here. Hope you enjoyed the Traitify demo. Okay, Charlie, here comes your invite. And I believe he's calling in from London. So we got an international show today. There he is.
Hi, Chris. Thanks very much for having us.
Excellent. Welcome to RecTech Live, Charlie. Give us a quick overview of PeopleFactors first.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much. And hi to everybody. Great to have you here. I'm actually in Boston today. I bounced between the two, Boston and London, although it's been Boston for a lot of the recent time. Not so much flying going on at the moment. But our offices are based in London and in Boston, so we share the two locations. And I'm been spent the last 20 years around leadership consulting, and that's really what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and how we hire for people leaders and how that can be a useful tool for you. So
you have a different kind of target market here, right?
Very, very much so, absolutely. Yeah. So the Traitify one was fascinating, some really good stuff there. So thanks very much, Josh. Good to hear all about it. So now I just need to share my screen, I think.
Yep.
Let's see now. I was trying to share the whole event. I just need to share my screen, don't I?
Yeah. Also, if your picture, you'll see the icon there.
There it is. I got it. Thank you very much. Okay. So hopefully you can see our homepage, our website, and I'll do a quick little intro and then run us through the actual platform itself. So really, if you're recruiting or promoting or developing people leaders in your organization, as opposed to those kind of volume hires, then you've got some rather different kind of needs to the ones that Josh was discussing there. And really, this is an important area. Good managers and leaders deliver an inordinate impact to business performance. So PeopleFactors is specializing in helping organizations to define and find the characteristics that you need to build that strong leadership backbone in your organization to support your organization's success. So yeah, thanks very much for having us today. It's great to be on board. As we know, the quality assessments, such as Josh just provided us from Traitify and that PeopleFactors provides, and many other organizations, as long as they're based on good, solid science, they bring some real objectivity and consistency to hiring processes. And so they improve your efficiency and the effectiveness, they challenge your bias, they reduce mistakes, all those great things. The difference with PeopleFactors is that we are focused on delivering a comprehensive solution for identifying management capability and leadership potential. That can be from your supervisory team leader kind of level, right the way up to your C-suite and your leadership in all sorts of organizations, from small startups up to big corporates. PeopleFactors itself, it's the technology division of Human Factors, which is an international HR leadership consultancy that's spent the last 38 years helping global businesses to identify and develop their leaders. And our assessments cover a broad range of measures in multiple languages and are used by businesses large and small around the world. So today what I wanted to do was just take a moment to walk you through a little bit of the platform and show you some of the features. I want to start with how we go about setting up an assessment, whether that might be for some volume campaigns in terms of things like leadership programs where we get involved. But more often than not, it's something rather targeted, like an executive recruitment or even supporting a learning and development program. I'll run you through a little bit of the candidate's experience, share some reports with you, explain the different reports, and how it's used for recruitment, for promotion, succession planning, development analytics. So let's dive in and have a quick look. This is us logging into the platform here. And what we're going to see is a homepage that gives us a kind of quick overview of activity for this client. But really, to get started, we need to dive into the people page of the system. And here you can see details from all of your assessments. So you just need to click on a name, and that gives you a little bit of detail about that individual, tells you what emails have been fired out to this person, what assessments they've completed, and a little bit more about their background information to help you manage that kind of process. There are kind of four main ways that you can add a candidate to this whole process. So you can utilize APIs that we provide that make it easy to integrate with various different applicant tracking systems. We saw actually on the first page Smart Recruiter, which is one that we've we do quite a lot of work with.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows the applicant tracking system to actually manage the whole setup of candidates and move through this process. You can also you can set up something like this page, which is a registration page that we provide a framework for, and then you add your branding to. And this one is being used for a graduate program for Imperial Brands, and that allows candidates to register themselves. So if you don't actually know who it is necessarily that you're expecting to come on board, then you can have people come and you provide them with a link, or you can put the link on your career site as you wish to do. The next way that you can also do this, you can bulk upload up to 100 people at a time using a spreadsheet, if that's the way that you're managing your process. Or what we'll do today, we'll just have a quick look at adding one person at a time. So here you just fill in some information about the person, and then we're able to, let's just add them here. We can select their languages. We offer lots of different languages, and there's always new ones coming on board. I'm going to use UK, as you can tell by the accent. So we encourage people to do the assessments in their native language, simply because if they don't do particularly well, or they don't come out as you expect when they're using English and that's not their native language, you're not entirely sure if that's because they have some challenges with English language, or whether they are actually not as capable as you expected them to be. So wherever possible, let's separate out measuring their English language capability from their underlying personality and ability characteristics. The assessments themselves, we set these up in configuration with you when we're setting up the platform for you. So we have some clients who use lots and lots and lots of different assessments. They define an assessment package for every single job function that they might have, or we have others who keep it very simple and maybe only have one or two options here. Generally, though, the core of an assessment for this kind of piece is going to be a personality, a critical reasoning test, an ability or cognitive ability test, maybe a management styles questionnaire as well. And then on top of that, you might find that you're looking to add sales aptitude, ways of working, motivational values, problem analysis, other kinds of things like that, depending on your assessment strategy. So if we we'll pick one here, and then if we do add job function, which is an optional choice on this, then you get the option to add other things like a functional case study, where maybe somebody has to do a case study, or a financial case study, or an HR case study, or a strategy case study, something like that. We're also able to add interviews, candidate feedback, and so forth as well. And you can choose to add an assessment deadline. Don't have to do that, but it's useful for encouraging candidates to complete. It's also useful for you because you can then set up automatic reminders to go out to candidates to make sure that they're nudged along to get their assessments done. And then we got a way of grouping your assessment, so you can add tags. You can manage as many tags as you wish. We have clients who use these to structure their assessments around geographical regions, around divisions in the company, around projects, so maybe a graduate recruitment program, something like that, or around roles themselves. So maybe you're looking at sales advisors or something along those lines too. And then you simply add the person on. So that is just a quick run through of how straightforward it is to set up an assessment for a person. There's lots of options, but it is pretty quick and easy to do. And as I said, there's also lots of automated ways of doing that too. So if I open up one of these guys, actually, let's open up Bruce. We can have a quick look at the actual candidate experience here. I'm going to need somebody who's, yeah. So what we find is that we did have in the old days when people used to meet face to face for interviews, we used to have people come in and do an interview, and then maybe they were going to go ahead and straight away and do an assessment there and then. So we have this ability for you to just open the assessment right from this window here. Alternatively, most of the cases, they would receive an email. So you would click and send one of the pre-configured emails out to them to invite them to go on and complete the assessment. That's what everybody does nowadays. But it's useful to have this here right now because I get to click on it and actually show you what a candidate looks like. So this is opening up the candidate experience. First thing to see here is that candidates can access and manage their own data forms. So this is a GDPR requirement in Europe. And so if you're doing any kind of international assessment, then this is going to be something you want to make sure is available to you. And they do have instructions on the bottom here on how to request that their data is removed. This very rarely happens. We did thousands and thousands of assessments in the last 12 months, and we haven't had a single data removal request. I can only remember one in the last 10 years. So it's pretty rare, but it's one of those regulatory things that we really want to have there. We ask a few questions of the candidate, and then the main thing is that we're encouraging them to do things like switch off their phone, make sure they're in a quiet place, give themselves the best opportunity. We did some research a little while on why assessments, it was actually focused on whether or not candidates were cheating when doing assessments, and there were obviously various safeguards that we can put in place to prevent that. But one thing that we did find out was that most issues didn't arise from candidates actually trying to cheat or game the system. They came from candidates not recognizing that they needed to be in a quiet, safe environment where they wouldn't get interrupted and so forth. It's a lot better to try and prevent that than it is to resolve an issue of somebody coming back to you afterwards and saying, my fire alarm went off and I had to leave in the middle of the assessment. What do I do? So anything that we can do to help prevent that is useful. And then another major difference that we have between us and Traitify is the amount of time it might take somebody to complete an assessment. We're at the other end of the scale. If you do a full executive assessment with us, it could take up to 90 minutes. Personality test, if that's all you're doing as a part of a screening, less than 10 minutes, still significantly more than the 90 seconds that Traitify have. But the full 90-minute assessment is actually, when you think about it, about the same time as lots of interviews take. And we're looking at a huge amount of information that we're gathering here. So we're looking at personality and cognitive ability and analytic skills and motivational values and management styles and all these kinds of different things. And so you get a lot more information in that 90 minutes than you would from a 90-minute interview. If I'm going to click on one of these just to show you the actual system itself, runs through all the instructions, so you don't have to be administering these kind of assessments. This is actually a simulation that we give to people before they complete the cognitive ability assessment. It's optional for them, but it just provides them with some practice if they want to do it. And this is a useful way of negating the practice effect that you might otherwise see. And so you get the kinds of questions you might see here, and they can go through, and the timing is completed by the system. And then when the results are all wrapped up, they are sent back to secure servers for analysis.
2 minutes, Charlie.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to dive back in to show you a quick thing on the reports themselves. So once those results come back, then these are the kinds of reports that you might get. The really key thing to remember about the reports here is that the system that we use now, we used to have consultants handwriting reports back in the old days. That was great, but one, it was expensive, and two, it was time consuming. We now have built an expert system, a type of AI that has learned from the consultants on how to write these reports, and it is able to turn them out within a matter of seconds. But it still embeds within it all of that tacit knowledge that our consultants were able to provide. So it's a bit like having a team of IO psychologists working for you at lightning speed at any time of the day or night. So it's a quite handy thing to be able to have. We then, that system integrates the results from lots and lots of different assessments into one single report. So you no longer have to have the situation where you understand the statistics. You don't have to be trained to understand these reports. They're written for a hiring manager who has no knowledge of the assessment process itself to fully understand. So here we've got the first part is a recommendation. The algorithms behind this for the fit for level and the future potential are based on our research identifying the characteristics that are most predictive of success within these jobs and job levels. And then we go down to the rest of the report is really focused around these essential capabilities. And for each of these, the candidate's getting a score, and then they're getting a description that is very specifically about that person. There's more than 60,000 options in each of these. So essentially, each one of these is unique to this person. We don't base it on a kind of type model. So we're not lumping people into boxes. We're treating everybody as looking at their individual differences. Okay. So that's the essential report. We have a couple other kinds of reports I'll just talk you through. We have candidate reports, which remove any of the detail around the job role itself, and so they're safe to send to candidates. We have development reports, which really focus on what the key strengths of an individual are and provide some suggestions for making the most of those strengths and mitigating their potential limitations. And then we have things like a summary report, which just provides a quick overshot of a candidate and is really useful if you are looking at maybe a quick reminder during a panel interview or a presentation or part of a development program or something along those kinds of lines. So lots of different options there. And again, we can adapt and change to configure it to fit your requirements depending on what your strategy assessment approach really is.
Okay. Well, thank you, Charlie. What's your pricing like as well? You want to just mention that quickly?
So the assessments go from, you can buy them one go at a time, from $100 up to $1,000, depending on what assessment packages you're looking at. But more of our clients now are moving to our flat rate subscription models. They start from $1,500 a month. So they're great if you're going to do any kind of volume. If you're doing more than 10 or 20 assessments, then you're definitely going to be interested in subscriptions.
Awesome. Well, Charlie Atkinson from PeopleFactors, thank you for your time today. Great to see PeopleFactors in action there.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Your link's in the chat there. So appreciate your time, Charlie. All right. Let's bring on Michael Yinger from ResumeSieve. We'll say goodbye to Charlie here and talk about ResumeSieve. It's spelled S-I-E-V-E, but it's pronounced Sieve. And we find Michael here in the list. There he is. Okay. 2 down, 2 to go. There he is.
Hello, Chris.
All right, Michael. And where are you dialing in from? I forget.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's 70 degrees today, but tomorrow it's going down into the 30s. So there you go.
Boy.
Springtime.
Yep, sounds like it. I'll put the Civ's URL there in the chat for everyone. All right, Michael, take it away. Tell us about ResumeSieve.
I will. Thank you. Michael Yinger, I'm the CEO of ResumeSieve. We're a startup in the HR tech space. A little different than the last two you've seen. We're at the very front end of the funnel. Our approach is to help the recruiter look at the resumes more quickly, recognizing that in vast parts of the business world, the small business world particularly, everybody's still looking at resumes. It's still a very common currency, and it's something that people are having to go through on a daily basis. So our focus is, how do we get it through resumes quickly, repeatably, in such a way that people are able to make judgments about who they need to move forward on. Now, I don't have a great story about living in a hotel. What I will say is that we really started just as COVID hit. And so we are 100% virtual. There are members of our team who we've never met face to face. We started completely virtually, and that's the way we roll. So it's been an interesting ride as a startup in that time period, developing a new technology and whatnot. Our technology started with a small IT services company. They built their own technology to be able to process all the candidates that they were getting internally. And when they sold the company, they kept the technology and said, well, let's see if we can take it out to market. Our focus really is on the small to mid-sized businesses, of which there are millions, certainly worldwide. And most of those businesses don't have access to the kind of technology that we all see on a daily basis. You know, certainly if you were at HR Tech in the last a couple of weeks ago, you saw there's a lot of technology out there, but not everybody has access to it. Not everybody even knows it exists. That's the exciting thing.
Right.
We're a standalone tool. As I've said, we focus on the resume. The user has the control over what they're doing. So we are really at the very front end of the funnel, where our last two folks at different points. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into the application. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So before the apply process?
I'm sorry?
So like, where does it sit? If I'm applying for a job,
it's the very front end of the process. Very front of the process. We are standalone, although we can integrate with other platforms. If you have an applicant tracking system, you have something else that you want to integrate with. But the whole idea is take the funnel and take the entire funnel. I'll tell just a quick story before I go into my demo. It won't ruin the time. Sure. I was talking to the head of a TA for a small firm that hires telenurses. That's their service, is telenurses. So she was hiring a recruiter. She placed a job, posted a job, and had 700 applicants in 36 hours. So what did she do? Well, she took the posting down. So now she's got 700 applicants. She printed out 700 resumes, 4 people, 3 weeks to get down to who they were going to hire, going through 700 resumes. I said to her, well, okay, but what's wrong with that? And she said, well, I probably wanted number 701. It's exactly right. You run your job. When you cut it off, you don't get the benefit of somebody who's coming in later, but maybe they'd be really super. You bring any more resumes into it, you have to go back through everything else to make sure that you're evaluating things fairly. We take all that out of the picture, and that's what I'm going to demo here for you as we go into our demo.
Good story. I like it.
So I'm going to pick a application window, and here we go. And I'm going to share that. I found it's best to talk to my computer. That way I get to where I'm going.
Oh, yes, don't we all?
Okay, so you're looking at the Sieve. I haven't taken you through the sign-on process because it's like any other sign-on process. Your name and your password and your reCAPTCHA. Can you identify where the stoplights are? All that kind of stuff. It's a fairly straightforward application. These are my jobs. We figure you're a recruiter or you're doing recruiting, and 50% of the recruiting today is done by HR business partners or HR generalists. So you're going to focus on your jobs. This is a real job that we have posted. I only have one in here just for demo purposes. On the left-hand side are the other segments that we will look at when we come to it. My Sieve is where we do our analysis, and then my resumes is where all the resumes are stored. So let's take a look first at my job. Oh yeah, I forget. I can't click on the video. I have to click on the real screen. Here we go. Okay, so here's a job summary. These are the criteria that I've created for this job, but I'm going to take you into the job creation. I won't take you through the job creation itself, but I'll show you the various components of it.
Okay.
The sections of the job are down here on the left, and then the information that we're going to put in on the right. There are 3 data fields you need to do to evaluate a job. You need to have a job title so you can find it. Who's the hiring manager so you can keep track of it, and then 1 skill. 1 skill is required. Everything else can be required or preferred as you choose. In this case, we're talking about a customer service lead. And so I'm saying, well, customer service, that's a required skill, and I want 3 years of that. Well, I also want management, but in this case, I've said customer success management because those 2 things are very close together, and our parsing tool will equate those 2. That's a preferred skill. Ticketing software is a preferred skill. Service support is a preferred skill. Customer analytics is a preferred skill. But let's say I didn't want customer analytics. Let's say I just wanted just plain old reporting. And so what I've done is I just started to type reporting, and it has pulled up what's in our taxonomy, 85,000 different skills and growing, that is available for the user to either be required or preferred. I want this person to have SaaS, and then we come down to work experience. I'm saying you got to have 3 years of work experience. Could be preferred, but I'm saying you got to have 3 years. Education, you got to have a bachelor's degree. I haven't said what kind of bachelor's degree, because if I say what kind of bachelor's degree, think about what's on a resume. I got to know exactly what it is. So I could put in Bachelor of Computer Science, for example, but then I would have to have exactly computer science. In this case, I'm comfortable with any bachelor's degree. Certifications, we have a whole raft of certifications that are available across multiple industries. In this case, I'm looking for somebody who's got a project management professional certification, and I want that to be preferred. I'm not requiring any languages, but I could, and then it would look at the resume for those languages. We could also look for a specific location. So just for the sake of this process, I'm going to say I want somebody to be near Baltimore. Spell it correctly, Baltimore. And how come I'm not getting within Baltimore? Let's try another one. Let's try New York. Well, that's what happens when you do a live demo. Sometimes things don't work. So we'll leave it on not required for now. And then immigration status, I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to go on, and I'm going to look at, now I can weight my criteria. In this case, I've adjusted my weighting. I can have them all be the same, or I could say, well, you know what? I really am more concerned with customer service than I am how much, whether they have a bachelor's degree. So I'm going to make this 15 and this 35. Just applying a little weighting, user control. As long as you've got 100%, you can have whatever weighting you want. This is a quick recap. I've got 4 required skills, and I have 5 preferred skills. I'll talk to you about how skills are scored in a minute. Okay, so my job is active, and now let's go look at some resumes. Well, I've got a bunch of resumes in here, but let me download the resumes that I got today. So I'm going to go out, and what I'm doing now is I'm going to create a folder that the resumes will be stored in. And today is the 29th of March, 21. When I click on this, you're not gonna see what I'm doing. I'm just going to my hard drive where I have resumes stored, and I'm gonna grab a handful of resumes just so you can see how that process works. So I'm grabbing 10 resumes, and I'm pulling those in, and here they come. They're all loaded into our system. What's going on now in the background is that those 10 resumes are being parsed. Parsing takes a little bit longer because it's going through, again, with those 85,000 skills. But I can refresh and see, well, I'm about half done. We'll give it another minute here, and we'll see that the rest of them done. Good, I've got one more, and so we will see that that one's done as well. Okay, so I created my job. I've got my resumes uploaded, and now I'm going to my Civ. And I'm going to select my job, which is Customer Service Leader. I have a custom range of resumes, the ones that I just selected, and I'm going to say, when I click Civ now, it's going to run those resumes through my job criteria. I'm taking a little time here because it's pretty fast. It goes through it pretty fast. Yep. So here are my 10 resumes. First thing I notice is I don't have anybody who meets all my criteria. Okay, well, we can make adjustments for that. But let's take a look at our highest ranking person. They've got a score of 540. So I'm going to click on this name. It's a relative score, and I'll show you how the score works here. So I've clicked on Elaine, and I'm looking in detail at her resume, which is going to pop up over here in the window. There we go. So she's got work experience that I wanted, 36 months. She's got customer service experience. If I click on that, it's going to show me where there's customer service in her resume, and sure enough, she's got a lot of customer service. What she doesn't have is SaaS. Okay, well, that's interesting. She does have a bachelor's degree. She doesn't have any of my preferred criteria. Metadata across the top here, job that they're in, all intended for the recruiter to be able to get a really quick sense of what's going on in the resume, how long they've been working, what their average tenure is, and the education, any certifications and awards, etc. Scoring is 800 points possible for required and 200 points possible for criteria, for preferred. These are all just arithmetic, so they're 5, so you get 40 points each. These are weighted by the amount of time, because I asked for 36 months. Well, she's got way more than 36 months, so she got some extra points for that, even though it has a lower weight. So that's how the scoring works. Let's go look at somebody else and see what is it about. Well, it's the same thing. We get this SaaS requirement. Maybe I really don't need SaaS as a requirement. Maybe let's go back. I'm going to click on my eyeball, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to say SaaS. I'm going to make that preferred. And so I've just changed my job spec. I've changed the criteria that I'm evaluating my resume on. Make this required all the same, and so it rounds them around. Save and done. Well, it tells me, look, you've changed things, so you got a Civ again. So I'm going to go back to Civ. And I'm going to look at that, and lo and behold, I've got now 3 people who meet all my requirements. One of them I hadn't even known about before, Donnell, total work experience, customer service, bachelor's degree. Okay, so these were today's resumes. Well, what about yesterday's resumes? Why don't I go in and just sieve everything? So I just loaded 10 new resumes. I had 157 to begin with. So now I just click the sieve, and I'm going through 157 resumes. Anybody ever gone through 157 resumes? It takes a long time. And we just did it in a matter of seconds. And now we got a bunch of people who have the right criteria. So maybe we need to go in and adjust our criteria. All of that can be done easily and simply by the recruiter with the hiring manager, as the case may be. The whole point behind our approach here is to take time out of the process. We figure you're going to save as much as 70% of your evaluation time by sieving the resumes before you evaluate them. I just did a job recently, this job, 296 resumes. It took me 3 hours downloading them because I did it manually, pulled them off LinkedIn, pulled them off Indeed, and it took me 20 minutes to evaluate them. Doing that manually, you'd never get it done. This gets you to the people who have the skills that you want to have. And so, Chris, I will stop there.
Yeah, that's interesting. You can do that with a LinkedIn profile too.
Well, yeah. In this case, these were all people who had applied, and so I was pulling it off their job application.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Angela,
so,
we have a question for you, Michael. Can you conduct a Boolean search on ResumeSieve?
Today, you can conduct and searches. If you put in preferred or even required, it is de facto an and. That's on our roadmap to give the people the opportunity to do or. But as you can see, you can do it pretty quickly. You can put in one skill, search for it, don't find it, put in a different skill, search for it, find it. It is a way that we work through that. Yes.
Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Well, one more question for you, Michael. But it looks like James, your colleague, says there's a 15-day free trial there in the chat. There's a link there, and you're welcome, James. Last question, Michael. The name, where did it come from?
Sure. Well, you might not be able to see it really carefully in our favicon, but the sieve is a cooking device. And what happens if you go to our website, what you can see is it's a cooking device that you put things in and they come out the bottom, whether it's flour or something else. And so the idea is you put your whole funnel into the sieve, and what comes out are the people that you really want. That's the visual, and that's where the name came from.
Awesome. All right. ResumeSieve.com. Michael Yinger, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Okay. Last but not least, we've got iMocha coming up next. Let me get them on the line. Let's see here. Roshan, I'm going to invite you on the screen here. And if your colleagues also want to join too, let me know. But Roshan, you're up next from iMocha. And I'll grab their URL for the audience here for the chat. And there we go. iMocha.io is their URL. All right, so 3 down, 1 to go. And Roshan from... Okay, so tell us what iMocha is.
Yeah. So iMocha is an AI-powered digital skill assessment, and basically our main focus is during 2025, whenever somebody searches for skill assessment, the result should be iMocha. So we want to be that player around 2024 or 2025. Whenever anybody does a Google search, iMocha should come in terms of skill assessment. Now, when I say digital skill assessment, what I really mean is we do have 2,000 plus ready skill assessment. So iMocha is one of the largest player out there with ready skill assessment, and any skill assessment that you want to search, let it be technical, non-technical, you will find it ready in the skill library. So just to showcase you that, I'll just toggle between the screens. So once you log in, there's a skill library, and in all skills, you will find 2,000 plus ready assessment. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's say it can be technical, let it be Amazon, or it can be analytical skills. You can choose any skill assessment and add that as your account. So you can use the assessments from 2,000 plus ready skill assessment, or you get access to 100,000 plus questions, so that the hiring managers or the company can decide which questions that they would like to select, or which skills that they would like to select. So you can have a combination of, let's say, 2 or 3 different skills in one assessment. Let's say you can have a video interview question, you can have a coding question, or you can have a multiple choice question skill in one single assessment. So a combination of different question types can be done using iMocha.
Okay.
And not only theoretical, but we do have coding assessments. So simulation-based assessments are also available in the system. Then we do an automated asynchronous video interview. Also, we have a live video interview feature. Now, we also do proctoring. So in today's world, as everything is remote, we need to have a look that exactly who's taking the assessment, and was there somebody else helping him during the assessment. So we have something called as proctoring, where images of the applicants are captured, and you can see there were 86 images captured, but the violations were detected, and still the system marks in green. So we have AI-based simulation, or we do a scan on all the images to detect for any malpractices. Now the system marks in green because there was a child during he was taking the assessment. As we are working from home, these occurrences are normal these days. So the system is so smart that it can detect that there's a child, and it will still mark him green.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Apart from that, let's say apart from the 2,000 plus assessment, if you want to have an assessment created or tailor-made, so we also provide a custom assessments where you can get the custom assessment created within 24 working hours, or if the skill is niche, it takes about 4 to 5 working days to get that assessment created. We also have a consultancy service where, depending on the job roles that you have, or let's say if you want to check your current employees where they are and which areas they should upskill themselves on, so we provide you that services. So in short, iMocha can help you with recruitment, let's say for university lateral technical or functional hiring. We can help you in L&D, learning and development, let's say for digital transformation, upskilling and reskilling. So we are doing that for Ericsson and Pfizer currently. Mm-hmm. And we can also use you can also use iMocha as a platform-based or certification-based platform. So that we are currently doing with Chegg and Umbrella.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So these are a few clients currently, and not only that, but to help the let's say recruiters and hiring managers, we have integrated our system with 15 different applicant tracking systems. So we have integrated with JobBite, Taleo, Workday, iSense. In terms of upskilling and reskilling, we have integrated with Workday, SumTotal, SAP SuccessFactors. And for platform, we are integrated with Chegg, Indeed, etc.
Gotcha.
So very simple. You get ready assessments, and you can add the assessment to your account. So you just have to search for it, and once you add that assessment to your account, the test is moved to My Test, where you can go ahead and see the questions that will be asked to the assessment. So just to give you an example, let's say this junior C#.NET developer assessment. Now over here, you can see the questions that will be asked to the applicant. You can select the difficulty level. So if you see, there are different difficulty level questions. Okay, you can let the system select the questions for you, or you can manually select them. So both options are available. So if you let the system select the question for you, you can define how many easy questions you want, how many medium difficulty level questions you want, and how many hard. So you can scroll to the entire question bank and see what question fits for your requirement. So as I mentioned earlier, there are different skills, let's say coding, then multiple choice, and at the end, you get access to 100,000 plus questions where you can add few more skills to the assessment. So you just have to go into add skill, and you have to select or search for that particular skill. So let's say I go for multiple choice question, and I go for, let's say, customer, or you can say custom service. Anything that you want, you can just search for it. Or let's say if you want Amazon, so AWS. So there are so many libraries related to AWS. So in one single assessment, you can evaluate multiple skills. Now, once that is done, you simply have to invite the applicants. Okay. And to do that, you just have to copy paste the email ID of the applicant and click on send invitation. Or once it's integrated with the ATS, it can be automatically sent through your ATS system. So you can automate the entire process. Let's say sample. Okay, and you just have to copy paste the email IDs over here.
Okay.
Now there is a template available, so you can make changes as per your requirements. So if you want any changes, or if you want to share any information with the applicant before they take the assessment, you can just make changes. Now you don't have to follow up. Let's say these days applicant misses on gets a lot of emails, and he misses on your email. So the system will auto follow up with the applicant. So that's why our test completion ratio is somewhere around 90 to 95%. So the system follow-ups with him. The tests are around between 20 to 35 minutes. So we have short and sweet assessments, and there are timely follow-ups with the applicant to take the assessment. Not only that, but let's say the admin can decide for how many days the test link should be active. So the time period during which the assessment should be taken can be decided by the admin itself. As I mentioned, there's proctoring and image proctoring. So image proctoring is available where you capture images, but there's one more proctoring where the entire audio video of the applicant can be captured. And let's say the applicant receives the email, he fill in the information, and he takes the assessment. After that, you get the reports within 30 seconds. So in the reports tab, you will have the reports within 30 seconds. And here's the sample report. So on the first page, you will see the score, the time taken, the overall performance, Then section-wise performance. So there are different skills. Now in Spring Boot, the applicant is intermediate. Java API, the applicant is beginner. Java Web Services, the applicant is experienced. And in coding, the applicant is intermediate. So what you can do is you can just go into questions. You can see all the questions that were asked to the applicant's response, time taken by the applicant to answer this particular question, and did he click somewhere outside the test window to Google something. So as I mentioned earlier, every activity will be tracked and notified to you. In terms of coding, when it comes to coding, the entire screen of the applicant will be captured, and you will be able to see him type whatever he typed in. Then on the right-hand side, the entire analysis will be provided.
Okay, so you do coding, live coding
Yes.
assessments. Okay.
Yes. Live or asynchronous, where he has already done, and you just go and see the videos.
Right.
So we have both. One is live, and one is where he has already done the coding, and you can just see the video.
Very cool.
Apart from this,
skills do you test for? Can you test for in this? Obviously, coding is a big one, but what else might be there?
So any domain, let's say sales, finance, aptitude, or even engineering, so mechanical or electric. So let's say in sales, if you search for sales, you'll find all the sales related assessments.
Oh.
If you search for finance or if you search for accounts, you'll find accounts related assessments.
Interesting. A lot of tools in there as well, like QuickBooks and Adobe and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Any QuickBooks, so you just search for QuickBooks. If you search for Adobe,
very nice. What's the pricing on this, Roshan?
So currently we have two pricing options, and it's a yearly package where for let's say for $1,800 a year, you can evaluate 300 applicants, and for $6,000 a year, you can evaluate 1,200 applicants from any test from the test library. Mm-hmm. You can create as many tests as you want. There's no limit on that. You can get this white label, so it will be your company logo. You can see the favicon, and ready integrations available with 15 different APIs. Apart from that, you get a dedicated customer success manager who will help you with the test creation, onboarding. So there can be onboarding calls, weekly onboarding calls. We have QBRs, quarterly review meetings. So, and there are weekly meeting and bi-weekly meetings are also there.
There it is. Yeah, anything else you want to share before we close out?
Yep. So let's say for the admins, we have a dashboard where they can get the entire view for all the accounts. So they can add users for the account. So let me just log into my account. Okay. Very quickly, I'll show you the dashboard. So first thing, when you log in, you will see the dashboard, and you can see the data for your account for, let's say, for last 6 months. How many tests were created, how many invitations were sent. Then same thing, month-wise breakage, invitation mode, the test status. So every little information, let it be a single question analytics, is provided to you in your account.
Yeah, it's a pretty big data set there. Very impressive.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you got some fans there in the chat. Lisa said, very cool, iMocha. And Angel says, wow, impressive. So nice job, Roshan.
Thank you, Lisa.
Appreciate you sharing your screen today and staying up so late there in India.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
You're welcome. Say hello to the team there. And yeah, that's going to do it. We've done the RecTech Assessment Tools Expo. That's it. Again, I'll have you can check out the replay on this very same link in just maybe about 10 minutes. It should be processed. Roshan, if you're still there, do you have any manufacturing skills assessments? Chris is asking.
Yes. And yes, we do have few, but let's say if you don't find the required one, we will deliver that assessment to you within 24 working hours.
Oh, you can build one for them? Yeah. Excellent. Good to know. Awesome. Well, I'm definitely impressed. You've got a ton of skills on there you can test for, and that's a pretty big something. It must take you a long time to build that stuff out.
Yes. So we are in the market for the last 7 years now.
Excellent. All right. Roshan, thanks again. yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. So again, April 21st, social media hashtagging for recruiters. Check it out, regtechlive.com or on Crowdcast. I'm Chris Russell for RegTech Media. See you next time.